All right, here we go. A few more people popping into the waiting room that I'm letting in, but just want to get started with the Profitable Agent Mastermind for Monday, November 27th. The year is about to end. I know we all know this very well. The next month and a half just seem to fly by. And it's the one time a year for sure, no matter what. If you don't control what you do in real estate, your month will just fly by and you'll basically get nothing done in the month of December for your real estate business. Personally, though, and I think Derek, I'm sure you can agree with this. For me, the next 90 days have always been the most important 90 days of my year. One of them being in the month, in the year that you're ending, and two being in the month that you're looking to create an incredible year for. But the next 90 days has really always been huge as far as my business goes. Derek, would you agree?
Absolutely. And right now you have another really 3 weeks before people shut down. Um, and the way I look at it is, the week before Christmas, at least Christmas is a little bit later this year. It's going to help us. But a lot of agents after Thanksgiving, they just go into cruise control mode and they don't really focus on their business. And now is the time that you have to buckle down and focus on generating more business for the rest of this year. But also, if you want to have a great January and February, you do it now. And I think that's where a lot of agents don't understand or never been coached properly on. Right now is an easy time, to dial through your sphere. If you didn't do it last week before Thanksgiving, you have a chance to do it now. You can ask them about their Thanksgiving, ask them about their plans for the holidays, and reconnect with your sphere. And that's just one piece of what we'll talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And honestly, I also feel like a lot of my deals later on in the year have come through the efforts that I made in November and December.
Correct.
When I'm touching base with people that didn't achieve their real estate goals this year, for any of those that are full time on here, we've all got people that didn't buy this year. We've all got people that didn't sell this year, that for whatever reasons, maybe mostly because of the market, just haven't accomplished their real estate goals this year. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is when you have pent up demand from interest rates like the way they've been for the most of this year, and you have people that wanted to move but didn't move, a lot of times there's only so long they can hold that back. There's only so long before they put their plans on hold or on a pause before they just say, F it. We'll deal with refinancing down the road. Let's make our next move. So I want you guys to keep that in mind as you're prospecting over the next month. Is people can only hold back themselves from doing something they really want to do for so long before they're just going to do it. So
Well,
having
yeah,
conversations with people of like, hey, I know we connected earlier in the year and you had been looking for a home. I assume you haven't, purchased a home yet. And if you haven't, just curious if you're hoping to reach that goal in 2024.
and Tracy, on that topic, if you're reaching back out to them and asking them what their goals are, what their real estate goals are for the next year, if they say they want to purchase, right now, if you're watching the market, there are some homes that are sitting, and if you're a buyer, now's the time where you can get that seller credit for a buy down, and have a chance to negotiate on some of these properties that are sitting. It's not that the buyers have disappeared. I don't think it's that. It's just the normal lull of the holiday season um, is here, and those true buyers want to purchase. And then when you're reaching out to your sphere, you're asking the same questions. You know, um, what what are your goals for this year? What are you looking to do? And a lot of people um, that have put it off, Tracy, in the last couple of years. I talked to one over the weekend, he sold his condo during COVID and rented, waiting for the prices to come down. Okay. Um, and and so he's talking to me at the open house this past weekend, and I'm like, so how's that been? He's like, man, it was a mistake. Everything that I was looking at, last year was in the mid fives, now it's in the mid sixes. So he's out there right now looking for a deal, to try to claw back some of the equity that I think he let slip away the last 2 years. So you are seeing that as well.
Did anybody notice something important that Derek said in that is key to getting people to come to getting you to a place of where they are? Anybody notice one of the things he said? He asked the question, how did that work out for you? Or how's that going? Because once you can get to that point with them where they say, well, it's not going well. Then, without saying, if you just came out and said, I know you've been looking for a home and looking for a deal while they're just not out there. Does that sound worse or better than what Derek said? I think it sounds much worse. You want the words to come out of their mouth. You want to be asking them effective questions, not preaching about how now is the best time to buy or sell. They're all expecting us every time we call to be spinning whatever the market's doing in our favor, and that's not what we need to do. We need to listen to people and ask effective questions and really get on the inside of what they're looking to do. Hey, you've been on the, I noticed you were we connected earlier in the year, and, it sounds like you haven't purchased a home yet. Just curious, how's things going in your current, where you live now? Because if the pain's still there, then you have to reconnect with the pain. Or if they mentioned something to you the last time you were on the call with them, go back to it. Hey, how's it working out with your neighbors? I know you had some challenges with your neighbor. Reconnect with the pain. Find out what their fears are. Ask as many effective questions as you can.
Yeah, and Tracy, another thing too as well is if you're, again, and this is if you know your sphere, okay? If you've been following them on Facebook. If you haven't, before you call them, just browse their page for a quick 5 minutes before you make the phone call, so you have something you can talk about. But a lot of people don't understand too that a lot of people plan their moves around their kids. So if they have families, you want to ask, how are the school systems? Are you happy with the school systems? That's one of the biggest factors why families are moving right now, is they want to get to a better school district. And those families make the move, they want to have a house under agreement in May or June, so that when the kids are out of school, they can transition. Okay. So you have to know your clients, and I guess what Tracy and I are trying to get through to everyone on this call is you have to ask questions, let them talk and listen.
Put your hand over your mouth, take your mouth away from the end of the phone where the speaker is. I don't care what you do. Just prevent yourself from talking, and just ask good questions. Let them tell you whether they might be a possibility for you to being a lead at some point in time. You're really trying to find out where their pain points are and what level of motivation they are. When I talk about a little bit later, one of the things that I highly recommend is that you have a 90-day plan. A 90-day plan and we cover this on our Thursday private coaching calls. If anybody's interested in that, they can message us or comment on how to get in on those. But those are private calls. And one of the things we talk about, and we're going to talk about this week, is having a 90-day plan. And what does that look like? What thing that if you repeated for 1 hour, at least 1 hour every day, at least 5 or 6 days a week for the next 90 days, would totally change your business for 2024. And I don't care how you go about creating your community, but if you're not having, and I posted this in the group, Profitable Agent Mastermind group, the other day, if you're not phone to phone, you got to get phone to phone at least. Preferably face to face on the internet is the next level, meaning a Zoom call, or I saw someone call it this morning a virtual coffee chat. I thought that was a pretty neat
I
way.
like that.
I like that a lot. I just saw that this morning on one of the groups I'm in. Is a
I'm gonna
virtual
use
coffee
that.
chat. You know, if they're willing to meet you face to face for a coffee chat, even better. And that's in the order: phone call, virtual chat, face to face chat. That's really your goal for everything you're building in your community. We got to just basically eliminate the fact that people are going to they're not going to use you over a Facebook lead ad. You know, they're not just going to text you into buying or selling. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. If you had one of those happen this year, then you should have bought a lottery ticket that day, because that was a lucky day for you. It's not going to happen anywhere. People don't trust people. They don't, they're just not going to, even your close friends are probably not going to use you in real estate unless you're committed to having a relationship that includes face-to-face, phone-to-phone, in-person meetings and conversations, and just getting to know them and having a relationship with them. You're just not going to get the business otherwise. So what do you do on a daily basis to make those connections is what's most important.
And
Tracy, yeah.
I mean, jump in for a quick second. We're talking about this. I forget which event. It might have been in the bigger 2024 event that one of the coaches or trainers on there mentioned, and it's about rephrasing your questions and asking effective questions. So I have a client that's purchasing in the suburbs. They're leaving the city, and we've all been trained to ask them at the closing or the P&S for the final walkthrough, do you have any friends or family that are looking to make a move? And it's such a vague question, but instead you can ask them, hey, and I did, and I'm getting a couple meetings from it. I asked them, hey, I know you guys decided to leave the city because you wanted more space to move to the suburbs. Are any of your friends facing that same space crunch, that want more space and are thinking about making a move to the burbs? So instead of just saying, hey, I'm looking for referrals, you get down to why they moved. Okay. Right. So if you're talking to your sphere, and you just help the family get into a better school district. Hey, any other friends need more space and are looking to get into the school district? So it's making them think about a pain point that one of their friends may have. Because Tracy, if I just put you on the spot, hey, who do you know that's moving? It's a harder question. But if you pick a couple of pain points that they had, and like usually attracts like. So if someone was outgrowing their home, chances are their kids have friends that are outgrowing their homes. So you bring it back to that point, and that's what people talk about. Need more space. I need a home office.
Right. So if you're helping a downsizer, hey, how many of your other friends are looking to downsize?
Correct.
And get a more efficient home. That's totally true. And if you think about it like this, like there's a million plus real estate agents. I forget, there's 1.2 million, 1.3 million. Like nobody needs a real estate agent.
It's true.
Good luck posting on social media. I'm a real estate agent if anyone needs help. Good luck with that. You're not going to get anybody to answer. It's like, hey, I'm a specialist in helping people do this blank. It doesn't mean that you don't have multiple specialties or multiple areas that you really like to work. But the more you continue to try to sell, I'm everything, everyone's realtor, I can do anything in the world. I'm good at everything. I am like literally the best real estate agent anyway, anything you can think of. The more people are not going to believe you. They're Correct. Just not. Or they're going to know that, okay, they're willing to take my business no matter what. They're not going to truly care about me. You're telling people you don't really truly care about their needs, only that if you need a real estate agent, I'm here for you. And that's what we got to get away from.
So I think we hammered the sphere for the first section of this. Tracy, in your career, what other methods have worked for you this time of year into generating listings in, you know, in December, January, February of the following year.
I mean, definitely calling any expireds that are expiring now through the end of the year. A lot of people take the winter off.
Correct.
They may say to their agent, yeah, we'll relist it with you in the spring. It doesn't mean they're planning on it. And it doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity for someone else to come in. Personally, what's always worked best for me is if I can't find a phone number for them, is a handwritten note.
100%. Agreed.
And the context of that can be very simple. I love sending to my sphere too. And I do it New Year's cards. Here's to helping you reach your real estate goals in 2024. I know your home expired off the market this year. If you're thinking about selling, and I try to put something in there that'll catch your attention. What I've started doing is putting you can go to QR code monkey, and I just create a simple landing page with a simple video on it explaining why their home might have expired in the market. So I can put an example up in the group of what I did with this, but I just basically built a one-page landing page. I tied it to a QR code, and I put a little piece of paper in the note card with a QR code in it. So if they're curious to learn why their home may have expired in the market, it's not about selling at all. It's about educating. All the ways that I've seen being reasons that homes didn't sell in the market. And I put that in there in hopes that they'll connect with me via that and give me a phone call. So that's one way for sure. What about you, Derek? What's some other ways that you've generated business this time of year?
Yep. So one thing that I do, and it works every single year, is and I know we have people that are participating in the chat, if you can. How many people have buyers, leftover buyers, let's call it, go on the holidays theme, leftover turkey? How many people have leftover buyers that just didn't pull the trigger? We talked about it a few minutes ago. I know we have those people. So what I do is right now, it's for me, I try to find buyers in the next 20 days, 20, 30 days, because that sets me up for all of January, all of February. And what I mean by that, and I know, Tracy, we talked about this, we're going to go in deeper detail on how to do it strategically on our Thursday calls. But if you have buyers, you have a golden ticket. Okay. Most agents just set their buyers up in their IDX feed, or they just set their buyers up in MLS and wait for the market. Okay. You have a buyer that's pre-approved, ready to go, and that will close on a property. You have to take advantage of that. And what I mean by that is you can call on their behalf and what they're looking for. Okay. And you can generate people that want to sell, because what I get when I make these phone calls is a lot of sellers are 2 months, 3 months down the road. You're getting them at the thinking stage, and it puts you in the prime position to follow up with them, provide marketing, provide value, education to them in these next 3 months when they want to list in the spring. So Tracy, the conversation goes like this. Hey, Tracy, this is Derek from Real Broker. The reason my phone call is I have a client that is really looking to move into this condo complex, and there's no inventory in the market right now. Are you planning on selling your condo in the next 3 to 6 months? It's a simple call. It's a simple yes or no from that owner. But every time I call a condo complex that has 40 or more units in it, I'll get 3 or 4 people that say, yes, you know what? We're thinking of selling. Okay. Not only are you giving options for your buyer, but you're using your buyer as a reason to call. Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, well, how am I going to go door knock or cold call? What do I ask? Well, if you have buyers, you can get listings hand over fist if you want to work them. And that's one way to do it.
100%, 100%. The other one is calling units that have high rent, high turnover. So they're the toll not the Toll Brothers, the Arrive, buildings. They're the Avalons, the ones that charge 3 to 4 grand per month or more for rent. A lot of those are people that have relocated into the area. I've had 2 relocations this year, and I got another one that I'll end up selling a house to in March or April that got a short-term rental. But they're moving into the area that if they're not from this area and relocating back, it's very rare to find someone that's going to relocate and buy a house right away without wanting to get into the area, get the lay of the land, and figure out the balance of commute versus home. Because that is the biggest thing with Massachusetts. It's like you want to live close to the city and you're working in the city. Okay, here's a ranch style home for $1 million. You want to, you can take the commuter line a couple times a week and you're working one day from home and you want a 3,000 square foot house in Shrewsbury or Westboro for $1 million. Like that's a big decision for people and they don't understand it. And they're like, well, how? They're asking all kinds of millions of questions and they won't know until they get here. So those are high turnover opportunities too, are the high rent apartments.
And Tracy,
find phone numbers for them, send them a handwritten note.
that was gonna be my next question. So how do you find their information?
I use PropStream. I'll develop lists in PropStream and then skip trace them.
Okay.
Do you know how, I forget how much PropStream is per month. I think it's
$99 a month.
$99 a month. And then the skip tracing is 12 cents per record.
10 cents.
10 cents per record? Okay.
Yep.
So if you're also working expireds and you have that application, you can go in there and put in the address and add a bunch of expireds and then skip trace your list of expireds and it'll gather phone numbers. So that's another opportunity. It's another opportunity.
Yep. I like that angle on the Avalons and the high rent complexes because people there probably have a 1 to 3 year window of staying in one of those places.
Yep, totally. I lived in one for a while after I was divorced and I saw so many people moving in and out of that place. It wasn't even funny. And they weren't moving to other rentals. They were staying 1 year to 2 years and then they were buying a house.
So I wonder if you could work out a deal with a property manager at that location. That may be something on my list if I'm a buyer agent and there's one of those in my town.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could work.
How about listings? I know we all want listings. What are some other ways other than expireds and for sale by owners? We know that those are going to be overworked. The ones that don't get overworked on the expireds though, surprisingly, go back in time. You know, if they're new expireds, everybody's going to be working in the next 3 months. And you can get some, I wouldn't say don't work those because you just be a little bit more creative, be more personal, send them a handwritten note, send them another one in a few weeks right after the new year, but go back in time. In the search bar, when you're searching expireds on MLS PIN, you can put in the time frame. I would go back from 2 years to maybe 6, 7, even 10 years, and then search the property history, make sure they didn't come back on the market, and go after those. They always are worth less. There's less agents that'll go back and do the research 4 years back, 5 years back. But there's always been one thing I've always seen as being true is people don't typically, unless they're renovating their house and staying put forever, they're typically not going, they're going to return to their goals at some point. They don't say, you know what, we tried selling, forget it. We're never selling. We're staying here forever. I don't care if you want to move. They're not doing that. They're coming back at some point and saying, we will do this at some point in the future, unless they're renovating their house and staying, which a fair amount will. But that to me spells another opportunity, which is building your network of contractors, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, etc. So you could, say, hey, give me a call, whether you're deciding whether you're trying to decide to go back on the market or renovate your home, I can probably help you with either one. At the end of the day, all we want is the opportunity to talk to someone, not to try to sell them on something that's not right for them. The problem is if we don't keep an open mind in how we offer help and be willing to help them in any fashion, even if it's connecting them with a contractor, then the chances are they'll just avoid us as, as much as possible. You know, because they think that all we're going to do is try to sell them on listing with us. So I think that's another opportunity. And I think we have to start thinking about that more and more as real estate agents. Is I am a resource, whether it's a resource for just your sphere of influence or you're building community groups, but that you're a resource for anything and everything real estate related. I may not personally do it, but if not, then I can connect you to the right people. You know,
100%.
and start building community. If you're, you know, again, we can't avoid the phone calls. So even if you're building community, you need to get them on the phone. But if you're feel better about building community and using the communities to make the phone calls, then that's your approach. You know, if you had a really tight group of service providers that you're connected with, I mean, we can all think of probably 20 of right off the top of our heads: insurance, lenders, attorneys, carpenter, electrician, landscaper, plumber, cleaner, you name it. If you had a really tight group of people like that, that passed referrals back and forth, you would get business from it. Derek, you're involved in a group. It's a, you know, what's it called? The
So I'm involved in a networking group called Provisors. In order to gain entrance into the group, you have to be 10 years in your industry. So it's not like a BNI where anyone can come in. It's about 60% attorney based. And I started with that group about a year ago now. And the reason why I joined that group was to network with estate attorneys, family law attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys, because in the market that we are in and we will be in, a lot of people are moving because they have to move with a life event, something happening with their home circumstances. So the family law attorney are your divorces, your estate sales, people passing away, and bankruptcy cases are on the rise on individuals. People have lived off credit cards and a lot of other things, but they have equity in their homes. So they're using their homes to either wipe out all their debt and sell the house, or they're using the home to save everything and stay in their home. Okay. So it's one group that's been very fruitful for me. And then in addition, you have your financial advisors in that group. You have your Medicare. There's one person that specializes in Medicare. So I'm constantly talking with that member, because people tell them what their, you know, what their long-term plan is, what their 5-10 year plan is. And their ears are up if they hear anything to do with the house. Okay. So it's just one group that I made an effort to get in the room. It was easier for me to get in the room than try to go door to door to meet those people.
Yep. Yep. That's right. That's right on. I think we all should spend time getting in the right groups, and in many cases building our own groups as well, whether it's your sphere of influence group, or it's you really like your community and you really want to build that community. We talked about was it Eva Lynn in her Facebook group. She was, you know, they use her as an example in the bigger 2024 event, and every week she posts something, you know, about the community events, highlights a business in the community, and then shares a piece of real estate advice or something going on in the market, how the market's doing in that town. Build your own community around that. You know, yes, you can get involved in other communities, but I would use those communities to build your own community. You know, people that comment on your posts or that seem positive, that seem someone like you. Invite them into your own group that you're building. But, that takes time to build up, but you do want to have control of your own community at some point. But getting into other communities is perfectly fine.
So Tracy, on that note, it's kind of funny that you mentioned Eva Lynn. It was John Cheplick that mentioned her. I took an hour and a half out of my day on Wednesday before Thanksgiving and just went through all of her videos. I was on her Facebook page and stalked it for about an hour and a half. And what's funny is you can tell she's gotten coaching on her videos. She used to start off every video with, "Hi, this is Eva Lynn." And then we get into her information. People would tune her out. Now she goes right into the event. So she'll start the video by saying, the top 3 events in Pasadena this month are, and she'll list them quickly. Then she'll introduce herself. Then she goes into detail on each one. Okay. But what's really interesting is if you watch the latest video and then scroll as far down as Facebook will allow you to and watch her videos from 2 or 3 years ago, we all judge ourselves harsher than public will. Okay. So if you watch her video from 3 years ago to the one she just did last week, it's night and day. She's a lot better on video, but it didn't happen overnight. Okay. You just have to put yourself out there. But the key thing that John said in that training that people probably glossed over is some of her videos only have 60 to 80, 90 views. She only has about 100 people that follow that, or 900 people that follow that page. But I guarantee you they're all local people. Okay. But she also repurposes those videos via email. Okay. And some of the systems that Tracy mentioned earlier, we all have their email addresses too when we skip trace. So every video you're doing for social media where people Google you, they're going to see you. You're also using those same videos via social and email to market to people so they get to know and trust you that way. So that was very interesting.
That's a perfect example. So if you're building your own, trying to build your own following within a community, best of Chelmsford, best of Shrewsbury, best of whatever, or talk of the town, you can create your own Facebook group and name of your group, and you want to be a promoter of the town, then you can go into PropStream and search for homes that have been owned for 10 years or longer, get a list and download that list and set them up in your CRM to email everybody. Now we'll talk about in some of our other coaching how to create a proper subject line with a hook so that you get people actually clicking on it and wanting to join your page. But as someone who spends a lot of time on social media and several different platforms, I enjoy when people organize things into one place so that I don't have to go all over the place looking for things I want to do. So if I find a group that I like that's organizing things in a fashion that streamlines it for me, I love it. So think about your community. How much do you think your community, and unfortunately, if you start to look at some of the groups that are already in your community, so let's say it's a community that you want to start building a Facebook group for. And I recommend groups over business pages because business pages, it's very hard to grow likes. It's very hard to know who's seeing your stuff. If you're part of any groups, you probably notice that you get more notifications about group postings than you will about any business posting flashing across your screen. So groups, I think, are where it's at. Do some research on the groups that are already in your communities. A lot of times what you'll find is they've gotten too big and they're too much, they're opportunities for people to attack each other. And it's terrible, but when you build your own group, you have the ability to decide what happens in that group. So now you're organizing everything that's great about that town. And do it like Eva Lynn does it in a manner that's, every week it's a repeat of the same activities. One day it's highlighting a local business owner. One day it's talking about an event that's coming up in town. Another day is like what's going on in the real estate stats, recent solds, what homes sold in town. just even reporting what homes sold in town, even if they're not your own, is what people want to know. I remember days when my grandparents and my parents would open up the paper to see all the sale transfers in town. Oh, who sold their house? What they sell it for? And like they want to know what's going on. People want to know about their town. It's very hard to know. Most people don't get the newspaper anymore. So you become the newspaper for that town. It's just,
Yep.
it's another great idea, but you can't just do it and forget about it. You gotta decide
So
a
Tracy,
a
yeah,
direction
it-
for your 2024.
and it goes back to what you said. It's taking an hour this week, okay, before the end of November, and map out your 90-day plan. In the last 40 minutes, Tracy and I gave you several nuggets that you could take one of those ideas and generate business. You can take two of those ideas and generate business. The problem is if you try to do all of them, you'll do nothing. Okay. So you have to get a 90-day plan. You have to time block your time and decide what you're willing to do. What's your threshold for pain? Okay. And that I have this conversation a lot. It's like there's a lot of ways that you can get business. The question is, how much pain do you want to go through to get that business?
Right. And for me, and we'll talk about this in again our private coaching session on Thursday for anybody that's actually gone through the process. I'll post the link so everybody has it to actually enter into the private coaching group. But this is pain. This is going to be 90 days of my pain. What this is an 80-sheet workbook. So in the next 90 days, I've got to complete 80 sheets of making at least 25 calls on every single one of those sheets. Now, within that, I've got several focuses, including building community, but this is the execution. I can't just sit there behind the computer and invite people to a Facebook group and expect it to turn into business for me. This is 90 days of hell for most people. And I'll tell you the truth, the first day already is what, was on Friday was kind of hell, but, and this, we'll talk about this on Thursdays too, but I've got a few, I consider one star to be someone that wants to buy, buy or sell, but they've got some hurdles. 2 stars sounds close, but needs to take some next steps. And number 3 is like ready to go, like 3 stars is ready to go and motivated. And on Friday, I have 4 1 stars, 2 2 stars, and a 3 star. Somebody that I hadn't really had in my lineup for business in the next 6 months. So I know every day I do that, I'm guaranteed to make some, really good pieces of business for 2024. There's no way I can do 90 days of this and not end up with a decent amount of business, if not most of my year for 2024. There's no way, unless you're just calling renters with bad credit. If you could get a list of renters with terrible credit and no money and call them for 90 days, maybe that wouldn't work. But I can't go wrong. And some of these days will be different approaches. One of them, this was old buyer leads that first day. One of my days might be expireds. Another one's going to be calling people to build community. But the point is you're doing the hard work, and this is accountability. This is, going to be in front of me, and I've got to get through these 80 pages in 90 days. And we'll talk about that, but that is what it takes, and it's not, it took me an hour and 20 minutes and I was going to stop at 20, but my 20th call was an absolute asshole. They were such an asshole. Like literally, she's like screaming at me over the phone about how her house was worth this. I haven't seen your house. Well, yeah, you told me your house was a piece of crap. And now you're changing your tune because you don't like it was just a terrible phone call. I was like, this just doesn't seem like it's going to be a good fit. We're not a good match. I wish you luck selling your house. And I ended the call and she had to call me right back to tell me how terribly wrong I was. So I was going to end on that call. I'm like, no way am I ending my day on that. And that's one of the things you have to really think about when you're committing to something like this, and you're committing to an hour of something every single day that's probably going to be somewhat painful is never end on a bad note. Never, never. Even if your time is up and you got to go to an appointment, find time in the rest and the end of the day to make some more calls to end on a positive. Because if you don't end on a positive, it's not going to be good for you. And I'll tell you, I'm not one, like we all have different personalities, and I'll be the first to admit that there's some people that could just grab a list of homeowners that have owned a house from 10 to 20 years, blank, cold call, just call 500 calls using a bulk dialer. I'm not that guy. I can't do that. I don't ever want to think that I'm the guy that's using a bulk dialer to try to connect with people and barely be able to figure out what the name is when I'm making a connection, let alone where their house is. I want to find other opportunities to build people. And some of you are going to be like that too. And there's ways to find numbers to call enough people to make 25 calls a day, 5 or 6 days a week to build your business.
But again, Tracy, the biggest thing is you have a plan. You have accountability. It's in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Tracy shared it with me. I'm going to ask him every week. Let's see your pages. All right. It's part of sitting down and actually designing a plan. You are all independent business owners. Okay. If you wake up every day and say, oh, what am I going to do today? It's probably not going to end up so well in 90 days. And those of you that are on this call, that they'll say, okay, you know what? I have to take this seriously in the next 90 days to generate some business. You're going to have a great 2024.
100%. 100%. Let's hear from some of you guys.
Any questions? Yeah. Any questions or comments from you guys before we adjourn for this afternoon?
Like, what are you feeling you need to do in the next 90 days?
Other than Christmas shop. I mean, that's 20 days.
I'm going to generate canvas letters and have a QR code that within and it's very brief, but it's direct in terms of being specific, whether it be divorce situations, estate sales, things of that nature. So that way I can drive them to my YouTube channel and they can get a sense of who I am, my personality, how I work, the education that I'm providing through the YouTube channel. So hopefully I can build a trust through that and hopefully, gain some business. So
I love it. So
gonna...
earlier when I talked about having a landing page, you don't even need a landing page. You could tie it to a YouTube video. So just explain something in a video, and it's got a website link, tie it to a QR code, put it on a little piece of paper and throw it in a note card. I love it. Love it. Perfect. Who else? Neki, Carol, Audra, anything to share? Dickens? Anybody else that's on here now? I mean,
I'll
really,
give you guys one. Oh, go ahead, Dickens.
Yes, next 90 days, it's continue doing cold calls, trying to be more specific with the lead that I'm calling instead of I'm trying to dial it in 2 or 3 categories, so to be more specific and to work those specificity. Pre-foreclosure is going to be one, and investor is going to be another one.
foreclosures and investors. Is that what you said?
Yeah. But I'm thinking about the third one because I'm gonna focus on 3 category for the next 90 days, and we'll see.
Well, that's an important point. Whether it's 3 or 4 legs, to have a chair, you need at least 3 legs, right? You need at least 3, if not 4. Your business needs to have 4 areas And I wouldn't recommend a lot more than that, that you're really focusing to pull business in. And ideally, it would be 4 areas that one of them should be your sphere of influence. I mean, we all have a sphere of influence. We all have family, friends. I have notoriously been terrible about actually following up with family and friends to work that avenue. So it's a leg I know I need to work on a little bit. I've been a lead generator. I've been people know they can come to me when they need to, and they do. But I haven't organized and been deliberate about how I work my sphere of influence as much as I should be. That's one, but we all need 2 or 3 other areas, and preferably areas that are actually moving. You know, we have to think about who's moving. You know, there's agents that are continuing to focus on areas that they always focused on that aren't giving them the kind of business that they want anymore. And it's not to say you forget that forever, but when markets change, sometimes you have to shift. You know, in 2008, I shifted to becoming a bank-owned agent. People ask me, oh, I want to get into bank owns and be ready for be a bank-owned listing agent for the next time we have a foreclosure crisis. I'm like, don't bother. And I said, just my opinion, but it ate me alive and made me kind of a miserable person for 3 years handling bank-owned listings. I said, well, they're like, well, what, you wouldn't do it again if we had another foreclosure crisis? I'm like, no, I'd be on the other side. I'd be on the buying side with investors and buying them myself, because I couldn't buy my own listings as a bank-owned agent. And I was paying out 3 and keeping 2 and paying all the utilities and cash for keys and everything else. So I was getting totally like annihilated as on the listing side, while the other side was doing great, doing amazing, probably better than I was. So I don't see that being a big sector of the market. I mean, it's definitely a portion of the market. I think, people will be in situations where they need to either dump in, they're getting behind. Those are tough to find unless you're following delinquency notices. I mean, if they've gotten to receiving a foreclosure notice or Soldiers and Sail Act notice, then you can go after those too. But find sectors that you really think you'll enjoy working that are going to be moving in the next year. Buyers
Yep, and Tracy, one thing I pulled from a training, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago, one of the speakers said a really good source of sellers for him come from solar companies. Solar companies still go door to door to sell their solar panels. So I've made a connection with one regional manager of a solar company that runs Extima door knockers. And what Philip Kahn told us to ask them to do is when they say no, because they ask, would you like to put solar on their home? And a lot of people say, no, I'm not interested. It takes them 2 seconds to ask one follow-up question. A, why aren't you interested? And if they don't give them the answer they want, a lot of times it's because they're planning on selling their home. They're not going to be there long enough. So it's a great source of referrals. And I just worked out something with the regional manager where we can reward their guys for those referrals.
Love it. Love it.
All right.
That's a great one. It's also a question a lot of homeowners have. So
Yep.
find a solar person, build a relationship with them, and then offer it to your sphere of influence, that value.
Correct.
I would, I think everyone needs a CRM. Everyone needs all their sphere of influence in a CRM. But I think just as important is having a private Facebook group for your sphere of influence. And I don't care what you call it. If you don't have a brand name, it could be just your name, private community. I don't know, we could brainstorm names for that. But being able to have that Facebook group to invite all your sphere of influence into, to be able to offer them valuable things in their life. Like a solar company, like a good landscaper, a good electrician, a good plumber. The more value you're bringing to people's lives, the more they're going to remember you. they would remember you more for helping them with things that they need to get done around the house for the next 3 years than if you sent them a postcard every 6 months reminding them that you're in real estate if they ever think about buying or selling again. So, you know, I think that's where people want us to be. They're like, oh, real estate agents, all they care about is the sale. They get the sale, they're done, they're gone. They'll start calling me in a couple years when they think I'm ready to buy or sell again. We need to stop that. But that was it for today. Unless you guys have anything else you want to share? Any questions? If not, then we'll end this session. If I'll post the link, how you can get involved with the Thursday calls. We'll dive deep into this. We'll dive deep into accountability on a week-to-week basis in those calls on Thursdays. And it's really our opportunity to, you know, take a mastermind and take it to the next level with coaching, you know, that really will help you keep accountable to your business, to your goals. You can bounce what your 90-day plan is off of us. And you can work in smaller group setting where you can, you know, really take a hold of the next 90 days and change your 2024. I know my 2023 wasn't what I hoped it to be. I'm not going to let that happen again in 2024. I mean, I think a lot of us are in that same boat. You know, it's just, we didn't expect it to be this hard. We didn't expect it to be, you know, and maybe the writing was out there and we should have watched it better, but we didn't. So we're going to make 2024 the best year yet to make up for 2023. And I am positive. I'm feeling positive about 2024, not only because I'm going to make it happen, but I think there's a lot of people that are just going to start making a move because they're tired of waiting.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, that's it. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one.